Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new edition of Odds Honest Truth. I am Kirk Gormanoff alongside this guy right here, Rich Wilhelm. You can follow us on Twitter at Seahawks94, at Coda522, or the show at, wow, I almost did our old show handle. But no, this is at Odds Honest Truth. I almost threw out a little at Code Green SBR.
Oh, wow, throwing it way back.
Which is, like a couple of shows ago, Rich. But no, follow the show at Odds Honest Truth. It's a really, really exciting week in football. It's fantasy football championships weeks. There's college football bowl games, and there's NFL. This is going to be an all NFL special, though. And that's a little on me. I got a little too relaxed in the holiday season, and I forgot to talk to our normal contributors and let them know what our schedule for recording is. So you just get stuck looking at these two mugs while we talk some NFL football. And there's no Thursday night football game this week either. So no prop bets, just some spreads, and we'll talk some fantasy football as well. Make sure you guys get involved with us over on Chalkboard. It's a one-of-a-kind sports betting social networking app where you can track all of your bets from your favorite sports book and share them directly with your friends. You can get involved today by downloading the Chalkboard app and joining the Odds Honest Truth board, where you can get all kinds of great analysis from myself, from Rich, and from our great community of bettors. We have guys like John Rose. We have guys like TV's Matt Bernier. We have Alan Studer. We have a lot of really great contributors in there, giving out bets almost every single day of the week, helping you make some money. So, Rich, let's dive right in, and let's start with some fantasy football. We'll get into spreads in a little later on in the show, but let's kick off fantasy because it's a fun week. It's championship week, but most importantly, we're facing each other in the championship.
We are. I mean, it couldn't work out any more perfect. Just coming two guys on top. Here we are to talk a little trash.
Exactly. I got to be honest. I really like my chances. If you look at the prediction as well, I'm predicted to win. It's not by much, but it's still I'm gonna win.
I mean, maybe we'll have to see.
Hey, man, that's a whole 1 point.
Yeah, 1.22 is actually the difference between us right now. Which whatever, man. You take that point, you run.
Yeah, well, it's my point.
Yeah, you could have it. But I mean, both of our teams are loaded. I mean, there's no way around that. I mean, if you look at our teams top to bottom, we definitely had the best two teams in the league by a mile. And what I would want to do is, you said let's do spreads a little later. Why don't we just work it into our lineups? Because if we're doing it that way, we could kind of kill two birds, and we could talk a little more trash. We can keep this on the screen the whole time.
All right. I like it. Let me punch in a little bit so our friends at home can see our matchups a little bit closer. And let's just do a quick overview of the fantasy football matchup just in general. We got Burrow against Brady. We got, I'm scrolling on the wrong window there. We got Najee against Ziggy. We have Sony Michel against Austin Eckler. We got Stephon Diggs against Justin Jefferson. Devontae Adams against Tyreek Hill. This is where we both suck. The tight end position is just,
Schultz is a man among beasts. He got 26 points last week.
That's fine, but the consistency is the name of the game. And
look that man's picture real quick.
I'll click it.
Just scroll down.
These are good. Yeah. But what happened here?
He had a little bug, it's fine.
Okay.
Anything over 10 for a tight end, if they're not one of the top 4 tight ends in the NFL, I'm good with.
That's fair.
If you swung and miss, most of the time you're going to swing and miss on a tight end because there's only 5 that are worth even rostering in the NFL right now. So
yeah,
I don't know if yours is Cole Kmet. Oof.
He's some schlub on the Bears who doesn't get the touchdowns. Jimmy Graham does. But yeah, it's real bad. This used to be Robert Tonyan. We talked about this last week.
Yeah.
And I like Robert Tonyan. I don't like Cole Kmet. Antonio Gibson against Hollywood Brown. Gibson is questionable, so you got to keep an eye on that injury situation. But he played last week, and he got in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably the bare minimum, but he did it. DK Metcalf against Rojo. McPherson against Gay, the matchup of the century. And right now I have the Chargers defense in. You have the Bears defense in. I also have the Rams defense. So that's going to be a bit of a coin flip because I don't think we have. Yeah. I don't think we have. This I thought was going to be my home run last week, and they had -3 points. I mean, they just laid a goose egg against the Houston Texans.
The NFL is very weird this year, to say the least.
Exactly. It's a weird place to be. So let's start with this matchup right here. Let's talk quarterbacks, and we'll start with your quarterback, Rich, because it's probably one of the wider spreads this week, and this is the Caesars Sportsbook. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the New York Jets. It's a 13-point spread. The Jets are coming off of probably their best game of the year, but it was against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And now they're playing one of the best teams in football. They're playing the Tampa Bay Bucs. It's about as one-sided as you can get. You look at this matchup as well. You just look at Tom Brady, and this could be his chicken noodle soup game. He really has 2 of them to get into the playoffs as well. But, he's had 2 down weeks. I think this could be a really big bounce back, but it could also be a really big game for the run game for the Bucs. Regardless, the Buccaneers are going to win this game. I think they cover that 13-point spread. What do you think about Tom Brady specifically, and then this game overall?
So normally I would hate starting Tom Brady just because all of his weapons are out. But if the Jets have proved anything to us, it doesn't matter if they have weapons. Tom Brady is going to beat them with absolutely nothing. So, Mike Evans is hurt now. COVID, actually, he's on the COVID list. So, I mean, you got Godwin already out. Antonio Brown is going to be, guns blazing. But Rojo, like you said, I think Rojo is going to be very good this game. He'll probably have at least 1 touchdown, if not 2. And then all I need is Tom Brady to kind of be serviceable. If he can hit that 23-point, number, I'm all right with that. But yeah, the spread is 13. The Jets have a lot of players coming back from COVID, and they have, players and the coach coming back too, which obviously the coach last week was 1-0 in Middleton. But I mean, having Robert Saleh out there is nothing I'm going to complain about. So 13 is the spread. I do think that the Bucs do beat the Jets by 2 touchdowns, but it's going to be more competitive than I think people are going to think. Even though they're going to lose, I don't think they're going to get destroyed. I think earlier in the year, this would have been like a 42-10 type game, but the team is kind of coming together right now. And Zach Wilson's actually looking not bad these past couple of weeks.
He does look a little more comfortable under center. He looks a little more comfortable on the run as well. Like he doesn't look so frazzled. And the Bucs have not had a great last 2 weeks. They're not playing the absolute best, but I think this is, I think we should trademark it or make a T-shirt or something. But the chicken noodle soup game for sure. I think this is going to make Tom Brady and the Bucs much better. Let's talk about Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals here. He's coming off of a pretty historic game last week. 525 yards. What's this? The touchdown column, right? 4 touchdowns. He had nearly 40 fantasy points. I'm not expecting that again this week. That was a once in a season. But you look at Joe Burrow's season, and he's had really good games, and he's had some not so good games. But for the most part, he's one of the better starting quarterbacks in fantasy football. He's playing a Kansas City Chiefs team who's, again, this is for the Bengals. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I think they will eventually be one of the best teams in the AFC. I don't know if they're quite there yet. If they can compete or win this game against the Chiefs, I think they'll either prove if they're next year's team or if they're kind of ready to compete this season. Right now, it logged me out. That's fun. Doesn't matter. We're going to head on over to the Chiefs matchup. It's a 5-point spread. I could really be convinced either way here. This isn't a game that I want to bet. I might play around with this over under situation, but even that 51's a little high for my liking to play around with. So what are your just kind of thoughts on this game? What are your thoughts on Mr. Burrow?
I mean, I love Joe Burrow. I think he's a top 10 quarterback who's going to be a top 5 quarterback. If we're talking about up and coming quarterbacks, it's him and Herbert for me. I think they're gonna be the ones kind of competing. Obviously, Mahomes is he's not old by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm talking like green. It's Burrow and it's Herbert for me. I love this matchup because it's going to be a shootout. The 51 is something I could see that is going to get hit. I wouldn't touch the spread at all because both offenses can score. It's just a matter of whose defense is a little bit better. And right now, I think that the Chiefs' defense is a little bit better. But the way T. Higgins is playing, I mean, last week, the week before, he got me into my other fantasy, final because I had him in my flex and he decided to put up 30 points last week. So, they have a lot of weapons. Mixon has been tearing it up this year.
Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase, going for Rookie of the Year. Probably Mac Jones is going to win it because it's always a quarterback, but whatever. But I mean, also in this matchup, I have Tyreek Hill. If we're talking about the Kansas City side of the ball, I need it to be a shootout. I can't have him having 3.9 points like he did last week because that was scary season. I beat my opponent last week by under 2 points because Tyreek Hill only got 3.9. So I think this is a game where he's going to be a little bit better. I think Kelsey's going to be back this week, so it's better when they're both on the field. This is probably the game of the week for me. This is the game that I would want to watch the most outside of my JETS losing.
It's crazy that that's the 1:00 game to me. I mean, Packers Vikings is always an entertaining game as the primetime game, but to me, this is like the new era NFL, like what we would want to see in primetime.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they should have flexed it out. I mean, we're going to talk about the Vikings and everything a little later, but I mean, it's not as close as what they want it to be for a night matchup. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think you won that. You're 1 for 1 in the quarterback category there.
I don't know. I could see this being a draw. I mean, I'm certainly hoping because I want to see a shootout. I want to see a fun game, and I want to see. I want to win. Obviously, Brady is projected to get more. The only thing that I'll say here is, I think the Bucs can score early, and then Brady won't necessarily do a lot later. So.
But then that gives me the Rojo. So I mean,
exactly.
Normally I hate having a quarterback and a running back because most of the time they don't score at the same time unless it's a drop off. But in this scenario, I have to with half the team being on COVID for the Jets. I think I got to pick on my own team a little bit this time.
Totally, yeah, and I think I think you've covered yourself where if they go up 14-0 early, they might run the ball the rest of the game, and Rojo's going to have 30-40 points. So, I like how you've kind of covered your bases. So we've covered a number of your players already. So we'll hop over here, and I don't love talking Monday Night Football before we've talked about all the other Sunday games, but let's do it. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not looking great. But Najee Harris is having a good fantasy season. Last week he put up 16 points. He's playing the Cleveland Browns this week. Last time they faced Cleveland, he had a good game, 21 points. It's with the way that COVID has kind of hit the NFL. For me, it's really hard to actually gauge how good a certain player is going to perform because I just don't really know what version of this matchup we're going to have. On average, Najee scores about this. I think that's about par for the course. You look at the spread in this game. I got to go to the bottom. It's 3 points. Cleveland is favored. I think Cleveland probably wins. I think they probably win by 3 points, but it does kind of depend on how their team has been able to bounce back after being just like decimated by COVID-19.
Yeah, I mean, last week for the Steelers was atrocious. I mean, Najee got the garbage touchdown, which was awesome. And also Deontay Johnson got a garbage touchdown, which was also fun. But the Browns almost beat the Packers last week, which would have been the fluke of the Christmas season. They were almost in field goal range, and then Baker threw his fourth interception. So I don't know if necessarily the Steelers could put up those kind of defensive numbers that the Packers did last week. So I mean, I like the -3 for the Browns. I also like not having any players on either of these teams right now besides Deontay Johnson, which I mean he's consistent throughout. I don't have him in this league, but I like Najee Harris. I think he's asked to do a ton because that team just doesn't do anything right now because Ben is basically deceased on the field. So 17.44. I think that's going to be close. But he's not going to blow it up. But he's not going to sink for your team. So I like that. I like that for you.
Yeah, I think he'll have a pedestrian game. I think it'll be. He'll have 80 yards. Maybe he gets in the end zone. That's kind of about what we've been seeing out of him, and I think, I hopefully that's enough. This guy right here always scares me, Mr. Ezekiel Elliott. He's facing off against the Arizona Cardinals. He's coming off 2 back-to-back really good games, and the Cardinals are a shell of what they were to start the season. They've really kind of collapsed. They're not the same explosive offense we're used to seeing. So, the Cowboys could, again, kind of jump up to an early lead and need to run out the clock. And I like that scenario for you. Cowboys are 5.5-point favorites right now. I think they cover that. I don't really trust this Arizona team anymore. I don't think that they're ready to be considered one of the top teams in the NFL.
I mean, I'm with you. I mean, the Cardinals, to me, I can't bet for them at all based on the past couple of weeks. The only problem with being up so much is we saw it last week. The Cowboys were up a ton against the football team, and then they decided to put Pollard in. So by the time Zeke was out, he already had 2 touchdowns, which is what saved my bacon a little bit there. But I hope it's a little more competitive than last week. Last week was just it was not fun to watch after a while, especially because I was going against the Cowboys defense in my other league. So it was a battle because the Cowboys defense had 2 touchdowns of their own last week. So I like Zeke if the game stays kind of consistent. If it's a blowout, I mean, that's where I like Pollard more. That one's kind of a toss-up between Harris and Elliott. I think we're kind of even on that one.
Yeah, I am inclined to agree with you. We're pretty evenly matched in a lot of our matchups here. Yeah. Let's go to our other running backs here. We have Sony Michel. We have Austin Eckler. Eckler's been just a stud all season long. He always finds the end zone. Ended up not playing last week. He's activated off the COVID list. That's really kind of the only question mark for Eckler, in my opinion, is just how is he going to bounce back from that situation? Tyreek Hill did not bounce back. A lot of players have bounced back really well. Yeah. He's currently projected 17 points against the Denver Broncos. The Broncos defense, the Broncos as a team are average, kind of at best. If Eckler comes back and he comes back healthy, I think you're pretty poised to see one of these types of games from him. One of these 20 points, 15 on the low end, 20 on the high end. He's one of the better running backs in the league. He catches a lot of balls out of the backfield, which is great for our PPR, and he has a knack for finding the end zone.
Yeah, for me, I mean, Eckler is a player that does better with rest. So I'm not saying it's good that he got COVID, but the man needed to rest. He was injured before he even got COVID. He had an ankle injury that he kept playing through. He was losing snaps to Jackson, and he was losing snaps to Kelly. I think he's going to come back, but I mean, the way that Jackson played last week, he played out of his mind. I think Jackson had over 30 fantasy points last week. So I'm more concerned about Jackson than I am about the COVID. I think it's going to probably be like a 70-30 split, which hopefully some of those 70% get into the end zone. But yeah, this game, I think the Chargers win. I think they cover the spread. Anything with Drew Lock, I don't like. I have Noah Fant in another league. I can't even trust starting him because Drew Lock is the quarterback. So,
and you just have to assume that the Chargers really want to bounce back and get some I'll
They
call
need
it
to
the
win
chicken
out
noodle
to
soup.
get to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean they need the win for their playoff hopes. They just didn't show up last week against a team that they should have dominated. So
yes.
I think they're angry. I think they're hungry. I think that's going to be a pretty one-sided matchup. This man right here, Sony Michel, is I got to tell you, he's not my favorite, but he's had a good couple of weeks. He's playing the Baltimore Ravens this week. He's won that lead running back role. This is an elite offense with the Rams. They're always able to air it out, so there's a lot of running lanes available for Michelle. He's pretty good at getting into the end zone. I wouldn't say he's a top tier running back by any means. I used to have Leonard Fournette. Look at that, you used to have him.
He was a Patriot, though.
Yeah. So, all in all, he's not my favorite option in the world, but he's looked pretty good. I think he could potentially get into the end zone again. 12 points, 15 points out of Sony Michel, and I'm pretty happy. The Rams this week are 3.5-point favorites against the Ravens. I don't know what's up with the Ravens. I don't know if they're good anymore. I don't know. Like, honestly, they're a very hard team to understand, in my opinion. I think the Rams are going to win this game. I think they cover the spread. I think they're probably, a touchdown better at the end of the day. Maybe it's more, but I'm pretty comfortable saying they win by around 6 points. So Sonny Michel could have a good game. You have Mr. Hollywood Brown on the Ravens. So why don't you break this one down a little for us?
I think this game is going to be competitive. I think Lamar Jackson finally comes back this week, which is going to make it, better for both of us, because the Ravens are going to be able to put up points, which means that our players are going to continue to be on the field and play. You got, very good news when Henderson for the Rams went on IR this week, which means Sony Michel is the guy. Cam Akers is back, which I don't know how. I don't know how you tear your ACL and come back the same season, which is insane to me. So I think his load is going to be very small, Cam Akers, and Sony Michel is going to be probably an 80-20 split type running back. Hollywood Brown, I mean, he's very consistent with whoever he plays with, which is not something you could have said last year. This year, he's showing that he can be that wide receiver one, which, I mean, I didn't think he would be. But he's proven me a little bit wrong, especially with the receptions and everything else. He had a down week last week, but, I mean, you just got to look at who he's playing with at quarterback. With him, I'm happy if he gets the 14 points that he's projected. I'll take that all day long because technically he's my second flex, even though your second flex is a lot better in that scenario.
Yeah, I think this should be a fun game. Aaron Donald is always really fun to watch defensively as well from the Rams side of things, right? And it should be a fun matchup if Lamar Jackson is back there and we have this kind of like stout defensive front from the Rams. It should be a fun one to watch in that 1:00 block. Let's talk about the Bills. Let's talk about the Vikings and the Packers as well. We can kind of cover this whole block right here. I hate the Falcons. We talked about this last week. The Lions covered the spread. They didn't win. There was the last-second interception from Boyle. It took the whole game, but we did say that he would throw the interception, and he did.
We did.
I think that the Bills are going to put the beat down on the Falcons. Diggs is one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. He has been a little inconsistent. You can see from a fantasy perspective that sometimes he has these weird single-digit games and matchups that the Bills should be dominating. But that's kind of the Bills' season in a nutshell. Like they have had these kind of weird, bizarre things. I think they're going to put the beat down on the Falcons, though. They need to get the win. They want to be one of the top teams in the AFC. They have to really kind of win out these easy games to end the season against the Falcons and the Jets. I think he's going to get these 20 points.
I think that's a low number. I could see him going for 30 because the spread right now is 14.5. I think they destroy that spread, which people are afraid to bet huge spreads, but The Buffalo Bills are fighting for their division right now, so they're not going to take the foot off the gas at all. If they lose one, the Patriots go right into that spot. So the Bills are going to dominate, and Stephon Diggs is going to be huge.
And you made a good point. People a lot of times are afraid of big spreads. I can be at times, but I would argue some of our more successful weeks, Rich, have been centered around teams with 10-point spreads, 11-point spreads, betting those and those teams winning by 14 to 20 points. Because a lot of times Vegas they're not going to make it a 20-point spread because it's a little too obvious. But this is kind of like an approachable number when it's a really one-sided matchup. So don't necessarily be too afraid. And you mentioned the Bills are fighting for the division. They want to beat the dog poop out of the Falcons. Let's talk about this game here, the Vikings and the Packers. We've alluded to it a little bit that the Vikings they leave something to be desired. They show up, they put up some points. I think they look really good in the first half. They lack a lot in the second half. I like Justin Jefferson a lot. He's a really good wide receiver. You see he's put up big numbers all season long. He had a big game last week against the Rams. What's the spread on this one, Vikings Packers? It should be Sunday Night Football, but it's not.
6.5. The Packers are favored by 6.5, and they're gonna cover that. That's my spoiler.
Yeah, I think they cover that easily. I think that they're a significantly better team. Rodgers is looking really elite. I don't know exactly who pissed him off or what happened, but he's playing at next level. Devontae Adams is having an incredible post-bye week performances, putting up 33 points against the Browns last week. This is a guy who gets in the end zone pretty frequently. I'd be pretty comfortable betting Devontae Adams anytime touchdown. You take a look at his yards. He is usually in the 90s. Take a look at, this is a player that I never think to bet, but I probably should because he's about as consistent as they come to try and make some money. I think Devontae Adams can get to 30 again pretty easily in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, your wide receivers are insane. My wide receivers are insane too, but next to your wide receivers, they look like midgets, which is crazy. The only
I got some monsters. I got lucky.
You did. The only thing I got going for me is the Vikings are going to be playing from behind. There's no way around that. Rodgers is going to come out swinging, and Jefferson's probably going to have to play until the last drive of the game. That's the only thing that's going to keep this kind of relatively close. Jefferson gets into the end zone a lot. And people usually have Jefferson as their wide receiver one on their team, so I'm not complaining to have Tyreek Hill and Jefferson. But the matchup this week is definitely in your favor with having Devontae Adams and Diggs.
And we talked about Hill. This is where, just to kind of reiterate, this isn't Tyreek Hill. This is more so Tyreek Hill. You just don't really know what we're going to get out of him. Hopefully he's recovered. You see the headline here from a sleeper bot. That's really the wild card. I think Tyreek Hill is either going to win or lose you this game. So we'll find out.
We will.
We talked about tight ends a little bit before. I really don't have anything to say about Cole Kmet. I don't like him. I don't like the Bears. I don't like the Giants. It's a game that I don't really want to have anything to do with. But the Giants are a bit of a hot mess, for lack of a better phrase.
Yep.
It's a 6-point spread. The Giants are hot garbage. I think the Bears cover that spread.
I like it if Foles plays again. Foles is the quarterback, that game against Seattle last week was awesome, especially as a Jets fan. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter actually who plays the quarterback, but I would love Nick Foles to play and just kind of light it up. At the same time, I would not want him to play because he's going to light it up to your tight end.
Yeah.
But who knows? And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, Dalton Schultz is one tough SOB. If anyone was watching that game last week, he got demolished on the field. He took a hit so hard that I was like, he's not getting up. And then he decided to come in the next drive and continue the madness, which was great for me because I needed every last point from him. to beat my opponent, and he put up, what was that, 23.2?
22.2.
22.2. So, he's definitely an up-and-coming tight end. He's a free agent next year. He's kind of showing off for all the teams. Hopefully the Cowboys re-sign him because he's really great in that offense. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely on board to keep him in this week. They're going against, who are they going against?
They got the Cardinals.
Cardinals. So we talked about it a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I think the Cowboys win. It's just, I want him to stay healthy and consistent. And I think that in this category, I win, which I haven't said much on this show. But tight end, I think Schultz is going to outduel Kmet here.
Are you sure Cole Kmet is
I'm pretty sure.
he's a real dangerous fella? No,
Yeah.
I think that's a runaway for sure. We talked about Hollywood Brown before. Antonio Gibson, we talked about a little bit. This guy's like just battling every injury on the planet. He's got a hip, he's got a knee, he's got a toe, and a shin, right? But he's a tough SOB, man. Like, he goes out on the field, he plays hard, he gets in the end zone. He has his up and down games you can kind of look throughout, but for the most part, he's in the high teens. It's a good matchup against Philly. I think that, assuming he plays, he could get 12, 13, 14 points. Somewhere in that range, assuming he plays. I do have, we talked about this last week, I have his backup as well, should he not play. But I really like Antonio Gibson. We talked about Rojo. I think Rojo is going to have a beastly game. We talked about the Seahawks we talked about how we like watching the Seahawks lose.
Yeah.
They lost to the Bears in a last-second matchup. DK Metcalf is another one who he's been dealing with some nagging injuries. He did play last week. He had a really good game last week, and by really good, it's 12 points. But he hasn't looked great since earlier in the year when Russell Wilson hurt his hand. Kind of since then, DK Metcalf has been an average receiver. They play the Detroit Lions, who, I think they're a tough competitive team. If DK can get 15 points, I'll be happy. I'm not expecting too much from Mr. Donkey Kong Metcalf. That game spread. Oh man, is it 7? I gotta tell you, I love the Lions plus 7.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, which is bizarre because if we're going into the season looking at the spread, it doesn't make sense for us to take the Lions right now, but they're a gritty team, and Goff is coming back. Amon-Ra St. Brown, my guy. Swift, Williams. We say it every week. They're a gritty team, and the Seahawks look like turds.
Yeah, they're gritty. They play tough. There's something in their DNA that doesn't let them win football games.
Yeah.
But they're tough as nails. Like, I think they'll eventually get it together. Not this season, obviously.
No.
Maybe in a year or two, though. I think they might be a 500 team.
It's pretty good for them.
Yeah. But until then, take advantage of these points. I mean, to me, this is a no-brainer. Lions plus 7, the way they've been playing lately. We're not going to do a deep dive into the kickers matchup here. But the Rams score a lot of points. Game might get a lot of extra points. McPherson, same. It's another shootout. Okay, we'll see what happens. And defenses, we talked about both of these games. The Giants are a train wreck. I think you won the defense matchup. But we also talked about, I'm blanking on his name. It's not this guy. Drew Lock.
Yeah.
Is also pretty turnover prone. So, a bit of a toss-up. I think you win, though. I think the Giants are more of a train wreck in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, this game is going to be very close, to say the least. We're going to – if one of us gets blown out, something drastically went wrong.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I want to just go over some spreads that somehow we didn't have any players in. And I want to start with the Titans game. We don't have any Titans or Dolphins on our team, which is I guess, good and bad.
Well, I used to have Derrick Henry, but
he's on our yeah. So I don't think he's coming back this week. I mean, maybe if like something crazy happens. But I like the Titans -3.5 this game against the Dolphins. Obviously, the Dolphins are on a 7-game win streak, which is fantastic. But the way the Titans came back last week against the 49ers, I think they know to throw to A.J. Brown earlier in the game now because he's the guy. He's the man. So for me, I think this is where the Dolphins lose finally after 8 weeks. So I really like that one. I also really like the Eagles -3 against the football team. I know we talked about it. Gibson is hurt. Eagles are still at full strength. They're fighting for their playoff lives right now. They have to win out to kind of control their own destiny. And Washington lost by 40-something last week. So, give me the Eagles. We already talked about the Packers -6.5. I really do like the 49ers -12.5 as well. If you're looking at the 49ers, how can you not like Deebo Samuel? Deebo Samuel, everything he touches turns to gold. Maybe Elijah Mitchell comes back this week. If not, I mean, they still have Jeff Wilson. Ayuk is getting in it. Kittle had kind of an off game last week too, but at the end of the day, the 49ers have a really good team. And in order to remotely get into the playoffs, they have to win out. And even if they win out, they can still be the odd team out. I really want to see the 49ers in there because I feel like it's going to be a fun time. Jimmy G is hurt, which means Trey Lance might be in there, which might add to more excitement in the backfield. So I think the Texans are an up-and-coming team with Davis Mills. I'm joking. So I think the 49ers
beat down last week on the Chargers, though.
Yeah. I mean, he was nominated for Rookie of the Week, even though, Zach Wilson had to win again for the third time. But, the Texans, I wish nothing but, good for Texans fans because their team has been wrecked and destroyed. So, but not this week. I think the 49ers cover that 12.5. But yeah, I mean, we went over all the spreads. My big ones were the Eagles, the Bills, the Titans, the Chargers, the Packers.
Did we talk about this one? Saints Panthers?
No, who wants to watch that, Craig? That's garbage.
It's a hot trash game. But
Sam Darnold versus Ian Book. No thanks.
I don't get how the Saints are 7-point favorites, honestly.
I think Taysom Hill's coming back. But, I mean, you just look at the Panthers. It's Sam Darnold is starting. That's why.
I guess.
Sam Darnold. And Chuba Hubbard at running back, and Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. Yay. And their coaches.
It's the Jets from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, right? It's the same team. But yeah.
I don't think we talked about Pats Jags either. 15.5 is a pretty high spread.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to touch it just because of that. I mean, the Jags are a terrible team. The Trevor Lawrence can't find the end zone if it was painted on the football. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Patriots should cover that spread, but I don't even know if the score is going to go that high.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I could see them kind of taking the foot off the gas a little bit and just controlling the clock and,
Damian Harris, nonstop.
Yeah. So that's gonna do it. We had a lot of fun. We covered pretty much every single game this week. We talked about our fantasy football matchup. We have a thread in Chalkboard for fantasy football advice. So join us over on Chalkboard today, Odds Honest Truth Board, and post your questions in there, and we'd love to answer them for you. You can, of course, fire away on Twitter at Seagorf94, at Coda522, or at Odds Honest Truth. Rich, is there anything else we want to add or talk about before we sign off here?
Well, I just want to, wish everyone who is in their championship game good luck. We're in 3, so I want to just say that we're good at what we do. So maybe pay attention next time we talk about fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. And let us know if you want to hear some more of this, heading into next season as well. We certainly like fantasy football, so leave a comment, shoot us a tweet. Let us know if you want to hear some more of fantasy football analysis moving forward on the show. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Odds Honest Truth. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much to Peter Thomas Fornatel, Drew Coatney, and Jonathan Kinchin, and all the fellas over at the In the Money Media Network. Thank you so much to our partners over at Chalkboard. Get involved today. Download the app for free. Enjoy the Odds Honest Truth board for every single bet and whatever that we play, analysis. It's all there over on Chalkboard. Rich, I assume we'll do our Sunday live stream this weekend.
Yeah, we should. Especially
we typically go live.
Other, so.
Yeah. We typically go live at the crack of noon on Sunday. So January, we'll see you in 2022, the crack of noon via the Odds Honest Truth Twitter. So make sure you follow us over on Twitter at Odds Honest Truth. Thanks so much for listening. Have a happy new year. We'll see you in 2022. And allegedly, that'll do it.